So let's talk about emotional eating, the part of us that's emotionally eating, and the inner child. So if you're new here, welcome. My name is Michelle. I'm a certified holistic nutritionist specializing in emotional eating. And I wanted to go a little bit deeper today and talk about the part of us that is emotionally eating. I want you to sort of open your eyes to, it's not all of you that emotionally eats. You're not emotionally eating all of the time. It's a part of you that's triggered into emotionally eating. So this was something I didn't know about when I was on my emotional eating journey. I didn't think of myself as having different parts of me. I didn't realize when I was triggered, and I didn't know anything about, sort of coping mechanisms or the inner child. And so this is something that is helpful to help you understand your emotional eating. So when I'm working with clients, this is something that they're doing. They're starting to identify and see the part of them that is emotionally eating and how to actually meet the needs of that part and to transform it. So just to sort of give you a little bit of a summary, emotional eating is a coping mechanism that we develop when we're very young, as usually in childhood. And that's the pattern I see with clients when we didn't have our needs met. We weren't seen, heard, validated. We weren't shown how to move through our discomfort, our distress, our uncomfortable emotions. And so we were left to figure it out on our own. And as children, we really feel that emotional distress and pain. And we survive by coping with it, by using food. And so when we're using food to cope with our distress, this becomes a pattern. We're not actually looking at the deeper emotions. And so this part of us, whenever we're triggered into this distress or discomfort, over time takes over. And when it takes over, it only knows how to use food to sort of numb out or distract from the pain. It doesn't know how to resolve the emotional distress. It doesn't know how to move through it, how to regulate the nervous system without this external substance. And so this puts us in a position where if life is really calm, the pattern doesn't pop up. But when life gets a bit stressful and we're trying to, navigate life, we find ourselves turning to food to soothe ourselves, to numb out, to distract ourselves, and we don't really know what we actually need. The thing is that our emotions are important. They are telling us what we need. We feel this discomfort and distress because it's giving us information about what's going on in our life that might not be serving us. And we can't tell that if we put food on top of it. If we keep putting food on top of our emotions, we won't know what we need to shift or change. And that can derail us from our life, not only derail, our goals, our health goals, but derail, our professional goals, our connection to others. It derails us in so many ways. And so I want you to think about every time you emotionally eat, it's almost like this part of you, this younger part of you, is coming up to protect you from whatever discomfort or distress you're feeling. And this is a really young part of you. And it didn't have the tools or the guidance or, the parents or caregivers to show it how to be with discomfort. Because emotions feel uncomfortable in our body. And when you're a young child and you don't know what's going on, you want to run away from it unless you have parents there to help guide you through it and say it's safe to be in this. And so if you can start thinking about that part of you as needing that nurturing parent or caregiver, then you have more compassion for yourself. But you also need to be that person. As an adult, you need to learn how to move through these triggers, through these emotions, how to resolve them, how to understand them, and almost showing that to this younger part of you, helping it transform. And this is what we need to do with this deeper pattern around our emotional eating. And how do we do that? That is a process. So when we have this emotional eating pattern, we become disconnected not only from who we are because we don't know how to move through our emotions, we become disconnected through food because we're using food as a band-aid now to cover up the emotional distress. And what I find with a lot of clients, then we try to figure it out, and we're looking at diet mentality. We're disconnected from our body. Then we're also disconnected from what our body needs. And so we're just scrambling, trying to figure out how do we be okay. But this emotional eating impacts us physically. So we try to control food. It impacts our body, and we try to control that, because if we look a certain way, we think we're going to get love and acceptance and validation. And those are the deeper core needs that we have. But we have all of these layers. And so we need to learn how to start connecting back to food, our body, and our emotions in a healthy way, not in a restrictive way, not in a punishing way, not in a bypassing way. And so what we need to do is to start looking at this pattern layer by layer. Yes, it started with us not having our emotional needs met, but now that we have food put into this, it makes it a little bit more multi-layered. And so when I'm working with clients, we're moving through these three main areas because they all interplay into the emotional eating pattern. So when you look at how you relate to food, do you look at food as something that you have to control? You constantly obsess about food. You constantly question yourself around food. You have this diet mentality. You need to restrict. You need to lose weight. This is not helping you connect to food. And you need to shift that and actually start connecting food back to what you physically need. And when you have this emotional eating pattern, you need to learn how to truly nourish yourself, but you need to start learning to discern true from emotional hunger. And if you want to dive deeper on that, I have a free guide that you can download below. But you need to discern true from emotional hunger and start catching those triggers, because then you're just eating when you don't actually need it. And that puts more pressure on the body, more stress, and damages our digestive tract. And so when I'm working with clients, a way to truly nourish yourself is to optimize your digestion, because usually that's damage from years of emotionally eating. When we optimize our digestion, we're also helping our mood. So we're eliminating some of those triggers to emotional eating, or what we sort of think are deeper emotional eating triggers, when they're really us putting in foods when we don't need it, which sort of creates more distress in our body. Then we need to satisfy our hunger. When we know we're truly hungry, we need to be satisfying our hunger. We need to be nourishing our body. We need to be fortifying our body. We need to put nutrients into our body. And this is going to be really important. When we're in this restrictive diet mentality, we think less about the health of our body and more about what it looks like. And that is not necessarily the same thing. The second area we need to connect back to and start creating the structure so that we can meet our deeper needs is connecting back to our body, getting to know our body. Those deeper needs in childhood we weren't attuned to. If you think about when you're at school, you're taught to ignore your body's cues to go to the bathroom or eat. You are disconnected from your body. You think you have to be a certain way. And here we're reconnecting back to your body, meeting its needs, and moving out of that body shame. So we think we should look a certain way, we should behave a certain way. We're moving out of that body shame and moving into body acceptance. When we're able to do that, that shame spiral triggers us into emotional eating. Once we start healing that, we won't be triggered into emotional eating out of thinking something's wrong with us. And the third area that we need to connect to, once we know when we're getting those emotional triggers, is to use those triggers as a doorway to go to the deeper roots of this pattern, to go to the deeper roots of why are we using food to soothe, to process and integrate that deeper root situation that happened to us that's unresolved. Anything that happened to us that's unresolved, those unresolved emotions are traumas. It doesn't have to be the biggest thing, but traumas on a spectrum from, little t to big T. And so we need to just be aware that these are just unresolved events in our life that are coming up, and we need to look at them, and we need to learn how to be and move through that discomfort, hold that space, be that parent or caregiver we needed, and process that on a body level and meet our true emotional needs and hear the messages of, do we need boundaries? Do we need to change something in our life? And when we're able to do that, food can no longer take the place of that. And that's where we can really connect back to food and our body, and sort of this pattern sort of releases. And this creates ease and peace around food and in our body and in our life, because now we have the tools to nourish ourselves, to connect back to our body, and to move through our emotions, to know the information they're giving us so that they can help guide us in our life, and to discern, what is right for us. And so this is how we need to move through this. And this is going to help us really help that deeper part of us that is longing for, that connection and wanting that modeling around how do we be with food? How do we be with our body in an accepting way? How do we be with our emotions? Because most likely your emotions weren't accepted as a child. You weren't seen or heard or attuned to. And now you need to do that for yourself. And this is not a small part of you. This is a vital core part of your life. And when you're able to do that, you won't use things like food to band-aid and to numb out. You will be connecting to you and what you need. And that is just an exhale and a relief. So this is how you can help your inner child, this younger part of you that's going to food to soothe. It is a process. And just like if you had a child next to you and you're raising them, you need to put in the time and energy and effort, the compassion. And it doesn't have to take forever. It doesn't take forever. If you have a process, you can start doing this. And so when I'm working with clients, we start off with really tangibly looking at this pattern. So if you are ready to start resolving your emotional eating, the first step I always recommend to clients or potential clients, and the first step I give to my paid clients, is to start discerning true from emotional hunger. Once you're able to do that on a body level, you can start seeing where the pattern is activated, and you can start catching your triggers. So once you're able to start catching your triggers, this is the doorway to go deeper. And if you want to go deeper and you want to actually resolve this pattern, then I'd love to invite you to find out more about my 12-week program, the Emotional Eating Evolution Program. This is the step-by-step process with the coaching, the guidance, the deeper tools to start resolving your emotional eating from the root, to start, integrating these younger parts of you, transforming this part of you that's going to food to soothe and actually meeting its true needs. And this is where you create true ease and confidence in your body and around food, when you get to this deeper level in a sustainable way. So if you'd like to find out more about that, you can find out more at the links below. So I just want to say thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe. And if you have any questions, please let me know. I look forward to sharing more with you, and I hope you have a great day.